We're going to hit record, and I think that we should be good. Yep. All right. We are live on Facebook, and here we are. So hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of 3 days to breathe again. I am so happy to have you here. In this program, we are learning how to navigate unexpected or unwanted change in our lives, and our theme today is embodiment, which basically means being more fully in our bodies and learning how to process grief, emotions, loss, change through being more fully present in our bodies. So before we begin, I'd like to review a few housekeeping items. You're welcome to have your video on or off, and then we have everyone muted. We just have one more person join, so welcome, Kimberly. And then, so basically I will speak for about an hour, and then at the end, we'll have about 20 to 30 minutes of time for questions. So any questions, comments, anything anyone would like to share, the last 20 minutes or so is up to you guys to, if you have anything you'd like to share or comment or not, anything is completely fine. So this is basically a safe sanctuary, a safe space where even though we are all in all of these different locations around the United States, most everyone here is in the West. Brian's in Texas. We've got a couple back east. So yeah, we're spread out. So basically, if you don't already, I invite you to have a pen and a journal with you to take notes. And I'd also love to just start with like a little opening. So I'd like you to imagine that we're in a community circle together as equals, being in this now moment and sharing in this present moment together. Yesterday we discussed grief, breath, and the thinking mind. Today we will dive a little bit deeper into those topics by diving more fully into the body. So before we begin, just as we did yesterday, I have my Palo Santo stick, which is holy wood that comes from Central and South America. And I'm just going to basically light it and get a little flame going on the end. And I wish that you guys could smell what this smells like, because it just has such a beautiful, really clean scent. Like it's a really grounding scent. Okay, so we're just going to imagine that we're all in this moment together, connecting, being here now. And basically what we're going to do is I'm going to read a passage from the Radiance Sutras, which is a book by Lauren Roche. And then we're going to take 3 deep breaths together. Radiant One. The life essence carries on its play through the pulsing rhythm of outward and inward movement. This is the ceaseless throb, the rhythm of life. Terrifying in its eternity, exquisite in its constancy, the inhalation, the return movement of breath sustains life. The outgoing breath purifies life. These are the 2 poles between the respiration, between which respiration goes on unceasingly. Between them is every delight you could desire. Even when the senses are turned outward, your attention on the external world, also attend to the inner throb, the pulsing of the creative impulse within you. Okay. So with that, we're going to just start with 3 breaths, just to kind of ground in, be in this present moment together, and just create this sense of community in this sacred space that we're all in together. So if you can imagine, depending on how you're sitting, if you can have both feet flat on the ground, that would be preferred. You can have your palms facing down or facing up. Down is more grounding, up is more to receive. And if you can have your spine as straight as possible, and your chin just slightly tucked, what we're going to do is we're going to take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Just letting everything go. In through the nose, out through the mouth, letting everything from today just be in the past. It's already happened. And then again, taking a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Just coming into this now moment, being here now. The breath and the body are two beautiful vehicles, simple and available to us at all times, that are very easy ways to just come into this present moment and be here now. Okay, so as I did yesterday with day one, our theme being surrender in that day, and I told a story about surrender. Today I'm going to tell a story about embodiment. So I'd like to tell actually my birth story, which is what is the story that I tell in my book, Awakening Your Feminine Spirit. So what many of us don't realize is that we carry trauma in our bodies as far back as prenatally. This was the case for me. I was born to a single mother who did not have a committed relationship with my biological father, and she decided to give me up for adoption. When I was born, the nurses immediately removed me from my biological mother and did not allow her to hold me for fear that she would get attached and change her mind. Most of us recognize now that when a baby is born, that the baby recognizes both the scent and sound of her mother. So when I was born, because my mother was not able to hold me and the nurses kept me separate, that was an immediate first sense of trauma and maybe a feeling of not being fully safe and present in my body. And the next day that my mother was leaving the hospital and the day that I was going to my parents, the nurses let her hold me for about a minute or two. And again, because they didn't want her to change her mind. And basically she held me, and then I went to my beautiful, wonderful, amazing parents. So me telling this story has nothing against any of the adults or influences in my life in any way. It's just a recognition that for me, I recognized that my initial coming into this world, being prenatally with a mother who knew that she was going to give me up for adoption, and then not being able to have that connection to her when I was first born, and then being taken to my new family. You know, we used to believe that there was no impact on a baby if those things happened, but I now realize, after working with so many children and my own personal feelings and experiences, and working through so much of my own stories and storylines and traumas that have come up, and maybe stories that I've repeated in my life, I've recognized that that was, now I see it as a soul contract, but I basically recognized that that was a trauma that I first held in my body when I didn't have that connection right away, because again, the nurses didn't understand. And I went to my wonderful family and I was held and loved and nurtured there, but there was still that trauma of separation and not really knowing if I was fully safe in the world. Now, I have always been safe and supported in my life, but I recognize throughout my life how I have carried some of these senses of maybe not being fully present in my body, always kind of wanting to jump out of and escape my body. And maybe they're not all tied to that first story, but I've done enough learning and work about how all this really starts. And to me, it really starts as far back as we can remember and as far back as we can go. And I recognized that that wasn't, you know, there were some things that were I can't think of the word that I want to say. So anyway, I recognized that, especially at one point, I had a situation where I met with a woman who said to me that she said, most human beings are not fully embodied. Most human beings are not fully in their body. And I guess I'll just lead into another quick story that I was going to also tell. And then I decided to tell this birth story. But prior to beginning yoga, I really wasn't always fully in my body. I always wanted to jump out. I was always struggling with worry and anxiety and overwhelm. And once I started to just do more practices like yoga and do the inner inquiry and the inner work, I started to be more fully present in my body. And I started to recognize that I wasn't always to where I felt fully safe in this world. And I've recognized also that one of the, as we talked about yesterday, one of the deepest human needs is that we all have this sense of belonging. We all need to belong. We also have a deep human need to feel safe. We need to feel safe in the world, and that goes into the first chakra. And so I'm wearing the color red this evening to represent the chakras, and I'd like to show this image to help you guys understand. So these basically come from the yoga tradition, and the red is the root chakra, and it's basically the to be here is the right of the first chakra. And to be here and to be safe and to have your basic needs, your basic survival needs met. And even if those basic survival needs are met in some ways, if there's traumas that occur in our lives, we have pieces that kind of break off and need to be integrated and brought back in so that we can return to wholeness, so that we can integrate and come back to a more whole state, which is our natural state. But we go through this life experience that takes us through a lot of different situations that kind of test us in really recognizing whether or not we truly trust life or not. And I realized that I've had a lot of moments in my life where things haven't always worked out the way that I wanted them to, and I started to trust life less. So the first lesson that I would like to discuss today is about the body connection. So we live in a disembodied culture. And how did we get this way? So I did a little bit of research, and I found the 17th century French philosopher René Descartes is a large reason why. Descartes was known for the famous saying, "I think, therefore I am." And we basically live in a culture that operates under Descartesian philosophy. Whether it be politics, religion, medicine, or education, our culture focuses on separation. And Descartes is all about trying to figure out anything out. If you do anything and trying to figure out anything in the world, he did it through the mind. And he did it by figuring out if there was any problem to be solved, we would take the whole and we would separate it into parts. And this isn't 100% wrong, because much of science and technology has developed this way, where we take and we figure it out through the mind, and we take the whole and we break it into parts. But the problem is that it is out of balance. And if you look at our culture today, everything in our culture is about the way Descartes operated. Descartesian philosophy, again, is like about separation and everything broken into separate parts. So think about politics, with the political system and everything being separate, with the two-party system and however else you want to think about it. It's like one side and the other side. You're either on one side or the other side. Or religion, you know, it's choosing sides. Or medicine. Medicine is broken up into parts where it's, you know, specializing in certain areas, and there's nothing wrong with this. But the problem with it, and even education, is that if we're only focused on the thinking mind, the analytical mind, figuring everything out that way, and breaking everything into separate pieces, we're not looking at the whole. We're not looking at the integrative whole picture. And basically what the integrative whole picture is when we're realizing that there is actually a connection of mind, body, and spirit. Everything is interconnected, as well as our body to nature and all of the parts of the body working together. And that we are just a part of this whole picture, that you know, what I have really stood by as I've started to discover and explore this within myself is the benefit of really looking at an integrative model, an integrative approach. And so I'm bringing this up because it's really important for us to understand why we're disembodied, why we're so mind-based. Really goes back to the 17th century and the French philosopher René Descartes. Before he came up with the famous saying, "I think, therefore I am," and the way that he looked at the world as that everything can be figured out by the mind, the philosophers before that actually tied a lot of what was going on in reality to God. They brought it back to God. And René Descartes was the first one to say, no, man can figure all this out by himself. I don't know what his spiritual beliefs are, but based on what I understand about him, is he was basically just focused on man can figure it out, and it's all through the mind. And so basically what that did is that made us a disembodied culture. It made us a heads up, only focused on the mind, only up here in the head, figuring everything out mentally and not connecting down to the body and down to the heart. And like we talked about yesterday, a lot of what happens when we experience trauma is we jump out of our bodies. We don't fully stay in our bodies. And some of that is the psyche's way of protecting our self from the trauma. So it takes us out of the body. But we are on this earth, in this life, having this experience to be fully present and in our human being body, to experience what it means to be in a body and to live fully from our bodies. And so in yoga, it is said that the furthest distance we will travel is from our head to our heart. And so what does it mean to be in our bodies and in our hearts? To be embodied means to fully be present and one with your body, and to love your body. It means to embrace your physicality and all of what your body can do. It is recognizing your body as a divine creation, as a temple, and as a gift. Now, obviously, this is a huge shift from what the culture tells us about our bodies, especially as women. We compare ourselves to models and actresses, and we feel that we are never enough. And we're basically at war with our body. You know, even when we're thin, we feel like we're not thin enough, or we're never enough. And so I'm here to tell you that you are enough. No matter what you look like, no matter what your body or your appearance looks like, in this moment right now, you are enough. So let's just take a breath with that. Let it go. It's huge. You are enough. You are beautiful. just as you are? Can you embrace the perceptions of imperfections that you believe that you have? And can you see yourself as whole and beautiful just as you are? Can you embrace every imperfection and see the wholeness? So that's obviously not easy. We haven't ever really lived in a culture where we're taught to do that. It's pretty much foreign to us. So you have been taught that you are imperfect or old or ugly or fat or whatever other words you may use to describe your body or your appearance. And you can maybe tend to be too hard on yourself, but it's not your fault. And it's the conditioning of the culture and the society that has told you that you're not enough. It's basically a program that was designed this way to keep you in fear and keep you small. But when you see yourself as a beautiful, brilliant creation of God, you are much more able to navigate whatever life throws at you, because you lead from your God self, not your not enough self. You are more than enough. You have been conditioned to believe you are powerless, and this is not true. And so whenever life throws at us unexpected circumstances and situations, traumas, losses, we can definitely go into being even more caught in this, I'm not enough, I did something wrong, I'm not good enough, beating ourselves up, judging ourselves. So I'm bringing this up because it's really important for us to recognize that the body is a vehicle for healing. And the more that you can connect to being fully embodied and being in a place of love of yourself, then you're more able to be love in the world. So I have an exercise that I would like everyone to try after the call, and I can post it in the Facebook group after the call this evening. But basically it is the Louise Hay mirror exercise. And some of you might be familiar with it. And it's from the book, You Can Heal Your Life. And Louise Hay, if you're not familiar with her, when she was 60 years old, she started Hay House, which is one of the largest book publishing companies, book and media publishing companies in the field of personal development, spirituality, I would say self-help, all of those arenas, consciousness. So here's what her mirror exercise is. You go up to the mirror, and right now you can just start with head up. You don't have to do the whole body yet. And you look in the mirror and you tell yourself, I love you. I really love you. Okay. So right away, I can feel that there's going to be triggers that are going to be coming up, and people are going to think, oh, I can't do that. And you think, you know, it's just going to make it worse. It's sort of like the dirty pan analogy when we talked yesterday. When you first start healing, it's like putting a dirty turkey pan in the hot water. And at first the water is clean. And then once you start scrubbing the pan, everything gets really dirty and the water is disgusting. And you don't even want to look at the dirty water. But the only way to deeply, truly, fully heal is to clean that pan completely. It's the same as the lotus flower being down in the mud and having to be in the mud first to rise up to the surface to become the beautiful unfolding of the 1,000-petal lotus flower that it is. Okay, so I'm going to repeat it again. So you look in the mirror and you tell yourself, I love you. I really love you. I love you. I really love you. And you're saying this to yourself. I love you. I really love you. So first, I recommend doing it just with the head up and trying that every day for a week. Do it 3 times. Every time you're saying it to yourself, say it 3 times, and at least once a day, and do it every day for a week. Once you get to a point where maybe you can start to accept some of that, you could even try full body, and then you could even try full body naked. Now that might take some time, and all I'm saying is healing, this inner journey, this inner work is all about the journey. It's not about the destination. It's not about once I'm there, then I'm fine, I'm perfect, everything's good. It's about recognizing that it's a journey and loving yourself through it and knowing that it's not your fault. The reason you don't think that about yourself, it's not your fault. It's the culture, it's the conditioning, it's all of the pressure that has been placed on us to look a certain way, to act a certain way, to be a certain way, to pretend, to put on the mask, to smile even if we don't mean it. It's all fake. And I'm saying right now you have an opportunity, and you can do it safely with no one watching, because you can just do it at home alone, go to the mirror and practice. I love you. I really love you. Okay. I feel like we need to take another deep breath for that one. It's a big one. Okay, so I'm going to just take, this time we're going to light the sage. So I have this sage from Sedona, Arizona. It was bundled up by a medicine man. I got it from a friend of mine, Phoenix, and she knows a medicine man there who gets this like amazing smelling sage. And just, you know, traditionally Native Americans have always used smoke and fire to really clear any dense negative energy, any heads. It just, smoke and fire really helps just clear the air and make everything lighter. Coming back to the breath, just a deep exhale. Okay. So to be embodied is to be here now. It means to be present, it means to be integrated, and it means to be aware. And again, recognizing that it's a journey, recognizing that, you know, there's not one point where, okay, I'm fully embodied, everything's good. It definitely gets easier, but just remember to be gentle with yourself. Remember to love yourself through this. And even if this is completely new to you, just your willingness to even try it, because I know it sounds weird going to the mirror and telling yourself, I love you, I really love you, but just your willingness to try it is courage. Okay, so going back to the body, your body has its own intelligence. And one thing that your body's always trying to do is achieve homeostasis. So whenever you get sick, there's an imbalance in the body, right? So homeostasis means that everything is working in balance, right? So we can support the body in achieving homeostasis by doing things like eating more naturally, eating more fruits and vegetables, drinking lots of water, having some exercise in our lives, keeps you balanced and helps your energy and vitality be the best that it can be. A really good word to think about when you're thinking about anything when it comes to your body is the word prana. Prana is life force energy. It's the term in yoga that has to do with prana being within everything. So if you think of prana as like as it relates to food that would have the most prana would be an apple you pick from the tree that was in the sun that day, and you picked it from the tree and you eat it directly from the tree. That would have the most prana because you're taking it directly from nature. The more food has been processed, placed in boxes or grown, you know, mass produced or anything like that, then the prana decreases. If it's been canned or frozen, the prana decreases. Now, it's better than other things if you're talking about fruits and vegetables, but I'm just saying, like, there's levels and layers to the way that you can eat, and how much prana you're ingesting really helps your body be more in its natural state. And even if you're not a lover of fruits and vegetables, there's always some foods that you can try, and there's always obviously foods that you can enjoy. And so I really like thinking about food that way. So the more you eat food with prana, the more you eat food with life force energy, the more it helps your body be more clean and have more ability to just be balanced overall, and even have more light from within. Yesterday we talked about our bodies also sort of being like a lamp, and that source energy, God, the universe, is the light. And when you plug that plug in, you're the lamp, you're channeling that light through you. And we talked about, you know, when we experience loss or grief, that Rumi quote, "The wound is where the light enters you." That is where the invitation is, to allow yourself to be opened. That wound can then crack you open a little bit more, so that more light can shine, so you can have that plug in a little stronger, and recognize that it is your divine birthright to be connected to your source, to God, to be one with God. Sin is basically being separated from source energy, separated from God, going against life. So another thing that I had written down for recognizing how to be more in your body is to honor and nurture your body, recognizing your body as a temple. Again, we talked about food, eating close to nature. Water, your body is 80% water, so drinking a lot of water is really good for you. Also, taking baths and showers and being around water, the negative ions of water are really cleansing and clearing to your system. That's why it feels really good when you're at a lake or a beach or a body of water of some kind. Sugar, watching your sugar intake, because sugar, too much sugar can lead to an imbalance in the body. Whereas alkaline, if you have your alkaline levels balanced, it keeps your body more in balance, in more of a natural state, and again, helps your body achieve homeostasis. So doing things like drinking lemon water, or eating fermented foods like sauerkraut, or doing a shot of apple cider vinegar, any of those things can help with alkaline levels. Also nature, spending time in nature, bringing nature into your home with fresh flowers and plants as much as you can. Another thing that's recently come out is a documentary about being connected to nature, and it's called Earthing. Basically what earthing is walking barefoot on the ground. So if you can find an area where it's, you know, not rocky or difficult to walk barefoot, so obviously that would be grass. Walking barefoot on the ground allows you to have that connection to the earth and the magnetic pull of the earth. And they're starting to do research where when people are doing this, laying on the ground, there's people that do moon bathing or just laying on the earth. I've always noticed when I've gone camping, I just feel so great because I'm so surrounded by nature. And it's very, very healing to your body, because your body vibrates at a frequency that is the exact same as nature. So that is why when you are in nature, being in nature is the same frequency as your body. So it brings your body back into balance. It brings it back into homeostasis. Whereas when you're in the city or surrounded by concrete, in cars, in buildings, in houses, covered by cement and shoes all the time, blocking your connection to the earth, then you get disconnected. And that is a huge problem in our society today too, is we aren't connected to the earth in the way that we used to be. We don't honor and respect the earth. We don't have that connection to, you know, growing our own food in the garden in the way that we used to, and being one with nature and the animals in the way that we used to. And so, you know, you look at the state of our culture today, and it definitely is out of balance, because again, we've been a mental culture and we haven't been embodied. We haven't been in our hearts and our bodies, and we lost that connection to our bodies, our hearts, and to nature. Sun, being in the energy of the sun, and recognizing that you are connected to all things, especially in the natural world. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to share as it relates to our body and the elements and nature is the Native American medicine wheel. Okay, so I have a picture of it here, and I know that it's not the most ideal, and probably you can't see it very well, but you can definitely see the colors. The top is white, yellow, we've got red and black. So basically, I'm just going to go through it real simply and help us understand maybe how we used to be more connected to nature, how the Native American people were connected to nature. And it doesn't even matter where ancestrally your roots and lineages come from. All of us were, our ancestors were much more connected to nature than we are today. So the Native American medicine wheel starts in the east with the color yellow and spring, and it represents babies and young children. And it represents the element of earth. And then it moves down into young adulthood, and it represents the south, the color red, and the element of fire. So this is a progression of aging also. The youth to young adult, then we move into the black, which is adulthood. And adulthood is the west, water, and the season of fall. So here we've got the season of spring, here we've got the season of summer, and here we have the season of fall. And then the final stage of life, you could think of this as, it's not exactly 25 years, because the first two would be within about maybe 30 years. Maybe the first 25 years are in this first section, but you could think of it as 25, 25, 25, 25. The top is elders, and elders is represented by winter and the color white and the element of wind, and it is the direction north. So what I find really interesting is, so obviously you think of new life, spring, flowers blooming, all of that. And the elders, what I find really interesting about that, one, the color white, so you think gray hair, but also we live in a culture that does not recognize or honor wisdom. We want to throw our elders away, throw them into nursing homes, not value them, see them as old, see them as just disposable. And that is another problem that has happened in our modern society, is we don't honor and revere wisdom and age and the knowledge that comes with living a full life. And so I just wanted to bring that up to help us understand, you know, more of an indigenous way of being ancestrally. And, you know, I really honor the way the Native Americans have those cultural traditions. It really helps us understand, especially living in the United States, this all was Native American land, and we all know what happened there. But I think that, I know that now we are returning to a time where we are going to come back much more into our bodies, much more into a connection with nature, much more into a respect of our ancestors and wisdom and respect for each other, working The other thing I like about the Native American medicine wheel is it's a circle. So working in the sense of a circle, rather than thinking linear time, which is what Descartesian philosophy would be, is, you know, everything's in a line, everything's based on time, whereas more the feminine aspect and more the ancestral aspect would be circular, spiral energy, circular community, getting together. Can you imagine if our politicians sat in a circle and all just listened to each other and took away all the labels? You know, all of our suffering is really so directly tied to our labels and our beliefs and our thinking. And if we could just let that go, you know, in yoga, Kali cuts the head off. And at first I used to be really afraid of her because this like seemed really scary. Obviously, if you cut your head off, you're dead. But the idea is to cut your head off. The idea of it is so that you can be living from a place of your heart and your body. Imagine if our politicians did that. Imagine if we all did that, you know, and that is how we are going to shift and transform the world. And that is how we heal, starting with ourselves. Okay, so just another deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. If anyone missed yesterday's call, I just want to do a quick review of another thing we talked about yesterday. Is another way to really process and heal grief is just allowing that sound to come through. So, you know, we talked about Ujjayi breath yesterday, so the breathing in through the nose and that more audible exhale with the mouth closed and the throat constricted, the Darth Vader or ocean sounding breath. That's a good way to come back into the present, to be here now, to be more into the body. Just breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. That's good too. Trying that 3 times. Also, we talked about bringing the sound in and allowing that vowel sound to come through, something like breathe in, out, you know, and just let it out. I mean, it can go into these high pitched, it can go into laughing, it can go into screaming. And if again, you're home alone, let yourself express. You know, we've been so blocked in the throat also. So let it out, let it out, let it out, let it out through the breath, let it out through movement. Go for walks outside. Another, I'm going to share one movement practice that's really good to release anything that feels stuck or heavy in your body. To help you, you have to do the release practices to help you come and feel safe to be fully in your body. You know, a lot of us don't even feel safe to be in our own bodies because of the traumas we've experienced. So another one that's really good is taking your arms out alongside your body and doing what I would say is helicopter wings. And you just go back and forth like this. And if I was standing, and you just let your arms flop against your body. I'm not going to do it here because I don't really have room to do it. And I guess I could move out of the way, but basically you just let your arms flop against your body and you twist at your waist and you just let it out. You know, you can stomp and shake too. There's lots of ways to just release the tension. If you guys have any questions about this, I'm happy to share more when we get to the question portion. And also sound. So this bell is tuned to the second chakra. I don't have one for the first, but the second chakra is the hip area, the element of water, the color orange. And just listening to a sound like that can help you come down and be more present. So anytime you're trying to navigate life and you're feeling like it's so difficult, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling like you're in a looping pattern, it's usually because you're caught up in the head bubble and you need to drop down and be in the body and just be here now. Be in your breath, be in your body. You can even start touching some things, like touching the table, feeling your feet on the ground, go all the way down on the ground and lay on the floor. Just allowing yourself to be where you can tune all of your senses into, okay, I'm here now, through, touch, smell, what you can see, what you can taste, and what you can hear. That's really good if you feel anxious. I saw a poster once, if you're feeling anxious, and Stacy could maybe speak to this a little bit more. She's a psychotherapist. Touching, like 5 things that you can touch. If you're feeling overwhelmed, what are 5 things that I can touch? Okay, I can touch this, I can touch this. Just going around the room. What are 4 things that I can see? And then just like say them out loud. Okay, I can see this, I can see this. What are 3 things that I can hear? And then just start to listen. What can I hear? What are 2 things that I can smell? Maybe what is 1 thing that I can taste? And that can help you just come back more into your body. Even like tapping here, tapping on the thymus point. That just helps you come and ground down into your body as well. Okay, let me take a sip of water and then we'll continue. The next thing that I wanted to talk about today or this evening is about the heart connection. So the body has an intelligence and the heart has a consciousness that is beyond the mind. If you're interested in learning more about it, there's a website called heartmath.org, and that has all of the research that they're doing about the intelligence of the heart. As far as my understanding is that the heart has an electromagnetic field and that we're picking up information that is energetic. Our bodies really are just energy. It feels like our body is a solid thing, but if you watch, there's a #1 TED Talk by Jill Bolte Taylor called My Stroke of Genius. And basically she has a stroke on the left hemisphere of her brain and she loses the ability to read numbers, dial a phone. Everything starts to seem really like weird and out there. She looks at her hand and she's like, what is that? Like, it's so strange. Everything she opens. So when she's in a place of the left brain being totally cut off, she opens to this expansive awareness and this sense of love and presence when she's only in the right hemisphere of her brain. But then when she comes back into the left, then she's back into this body, back into this reality. And it's kind of trippy when you think about it. Like, to me, it's a really good introduction into the nature of our reality. And what I love about it is that she is a neuroscientist that had a stroke. And when you have a neuroscientist that has a stroke and doesn't believe in any of this, and then she has the experience, there's other experiences where there's a doctor that had a near-death experience and he recognized that consciousness was present even when his brain completely shut down. He still had an awareness. And the current medical community still believes basically in the idea that consciousness is held in the brain. So if the brain is shut down completely and he still has consciousness or awareness, sort of like when you hear people that have a near-death experience and they can see what's going on and all the people freaking out and they're in the emergency room and they're floating above their body and they can see that, whether you believe that or not, there's millions of stories out there like that. It's just interesting. So I'm bringing all of this up so that we can understand the nature of our reality and the nature of the conditioning of the society and the culture that we have been brought into which is a very thinking, judgmental culture that teaches us that we're all separate from each other and God, that is not working for us anymore. And it leads us to be in a lot of suffering. And so when we can return to the deeper connection that we are one with everything and that we are fully in our bodies and in our hearts, it just opens up the door to a much more expanded way of being in life and looking at life and returning to our wholeness. So going back to the heart and the Heart Math Institute, how do we move from the head and down into the heart? Okay, so I have developed the deep listening method. Whether you've heard of it or not, it's basically coming into a sense of being in this present moment through listening and through the acronym of presence. Presence is an acronym for deep listening, and it's all about being in this present moment and how that helps us with when we're triggered and all kinds of other ways, meditation, all kinds of other ways. Being more connected in relationships. But in this situation, I just want to use it as a tool to help us understand how to drop from the mind into the heart. Okay, so going through the acronym of presence, the first letter is P. P is to pause. And thinking about dropping into our heart, the pause would be asking the question, what would love do? Then we would move down into the R, and the R would be reflect. And reflect, you could ask the question, am I being loving? The pause could also be, am I being present? It's just stopping and recognizing maybe I'm not being present and I'm going to pause. I'm going to take a short stop and pause. And then the reflection can be something like, am I present? Or am I being loving? Or what would love do? They kind of intermingle a little bit in this situation. Okay, then we drop into E, and E is engage. Engage is engaging your breath, and we've done that numerous times in this call this evening, taking a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Again, that helps us be more centered, be more present. Again, dropping down into the heart. S is sense, sensing in your body. Can you sense and notice your heartbeat? Can you place your hands on your pulse and feel your pulse? Can you place your hands, where your pulse would be in your neck and noticing the carotid artery? Can you notice and sense your body and your aliveness? E would be establishing a sense of self-compassion and empathy. So I put here, hurt people hurt people. When people hurt, they hurt others. But when a person is loving and self-loving and self-compassionate, you think of people like the Dalai Lama, Mother Teresa, Jesus, the way Jesus was, those people were expansive in their sense of self-compassion and compassion of others because they came from love. And when we see all of the trauma and the violence in the world, it is coming from people that are wounded. Hurt people hurt people. So that is why self-love begins with you. And so that's why E is about empathy. Empathy is such a critical component to, can I love myself enough through this? Can I have compassion for myself and all of my choices, and recognizing I did the best that I knew at the time. And all I have is this moment now. So how can I be in this moment now and recognizing whatever happened in the past is in the past. I can't change it. I just be with it. I let it be, and I just be in this moment now. Be here now. Then again, connecting to the heart, we can notice any thoughts or judgments that keep you blocked. A lot of people have walls up around their hearts. So how are they blocking their heart? with thoughts or judgments? How are you self-judging? Because again, that is the majority of the problem. We're judging ourselves for the way we feel. Can you allow yourself to feel and be everything that you are? Can you accept everything as it is right now? And just be in the state of allowing and noticing, wow, okay, I am judging myself for this. Can I love myself for judging myself? You know, it's sort of like peeling away layers of an onion or shedding a snake's skin. It's just one layer at a time. You know, it's a journey. The C is connecting to your heart chakra, arms outstretched. Give yourself a hug. You know, recognizing that you are love. Your truth is that you are love. Love is your natural state. Love is the truth of who we are. And we've been disconnected from that. Like, again, going back to all of the ways that we've been taught that we're separate. And again, our physical senses can definitely trick us into thinking we're separate. But how can we just really reconnect to the heart, place our hands on our heart, feel our heartbeat, recognize that our heart is keeping us alive, recognize that we are love, and ask ourselves, how would I treat myself if I was a child? How could I love myself? How could I love that hurt, wounded part of me? You know, how can I open my heart more? Sort of like thinking like a rose opening up, unfolding the petals. How can I open my heart more and just accept and forgive? And I'm going to post in the group a forgiveness practice, some journaling you can do about forgiveness. We're not going to go too much into that right now, but just about forgiveness is not about saying what they did was right. It just means that you are going to let yourself off the hook of holding on to that bitterness and resentment, because what it does is it gives your power away. You know, and then we come back to our affirmation from yesterday. I call all of myself back to myself now. Life is about owning our sense of personal power. And when wounded, hurt people have that power over mentality, you know, again, we can see it in all over in our government and everywhere. Like, it's, you know, that power over model, that authoritarian, you know, I'm just going to bulldoze over you and do whatever I want, you know. That's coming from a wounded person that is not willing to look inside. And, you know, can you stop giving your power to other people and other situations? And forgiveness is a way to do that. And then saying, I call all of myself back to myself now. I'm not going to let this bitterness and resentment eat me up any longer. No, it stops now. And in each present moment, you have the opportunity to take your power back. And then the final letter in presence is E, expressing your truth in the world and leading from your heart. How can you express from a heart-centered place? You know, expressing from love means maybe not responding to that email right away, and, you know, centering and being present, maybe waiting a day or two before you respond. And then how can I love myself through this and express what I need to say very clearly and concisely, and then letting go of the need to please, people please. Like, let's take that weed out and throw it out. We don't need that one anymore. You know, people pleasing is like old. It's over, it's done with. How can we be authentically, truly ourselves with kindness and compassion? Now, that doesn't mean say everything, you know, if it's not helpful, then maybe then it's not necessary to say it. But if it's something that needs to be said, then say it. And you can do that from love. Oh, let's see. Okay, so we're going to end. We're at 7:07 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We're going to end with a breath practice, a different one for this evening, so that we're, building basically our toolbox of mindfulness, present moment awareness, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, supportive, self-loving practices. The first one, again, that I highly recommend you doing at some point this evening is looking in the mirror and saying, I love you, I really love you. And then the next one is we're going to practice pranayama, which again, prana stands for life force energy. Pranayama is the fourth limb of yoga in the 8-limbed path. Obviously the postures, the asana practice is another limb, but we're focusing in these 3 days, 3 days to breathe again. So pranayama is really the primary focus, and we've talked a lot about the body. So we're going to now go into the breath and the element of air. Okay, so here's what we do. You can do it one of two ways. You can do it where you place your index finger and your middle finger at your third eye point, which is basically the point between your two eyebrows, like this, or you can just hold these fingers out. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your thumb and your ring finger out, and you're going to hold your pinky finger down. Okay. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to take your thumb. Now I like putting my hands on my third eye point, just because when I do that, it immediately brings me down into my body more. It just tunes me in. It takes me from the outer focused world to the inner focused world just by placing my fingers here. So I invite you guys, since everyone has their video off, you can try it with me. Place your fingers at the third eye point between the two eyebrows. Again, that's first finger and middle finger. Place your thumb on your right nostril, and then have the ring finger out. And then breathe in with the right nostril closed. The thumb is closing the left. Okay, I'm going to take my fingers down so you guys can see. The thumb is closing the right nostril. And then you're going to breathe in through the left nostril. And then with the ring finger, you're going to close the left nostril and breathe out through the right nostril. Breathe in through the right nostril. Hold, close, breathe out through the left. Breathe in through the left. Hold, close, breathe out through the right. Breathe in through the right. Hold, close, breathe out through the left. Breathe in through the left. Hold, close, breathe out through the right. Breathe in through the right. Hold, close, breathe out through the left. And then just let your hand drop. Take a deep breath in, and then just breathe out through the nose. And just come back to normal breathing. So we could obviously continue that longer, but I just wanted to show it as an introduction. There's also tons of videos on YouTube to help you if you want to review, but it's basically just breathing in one nostril at a time, closing off one, breathing in, breathing out, and just going back and forth. What that basically does is it helps sharpen your concentration and mental clarity when your mind is dull. It provides equal amounts of oxygen to both sides of your brain, and it's a great exercise to do before an important event when you need greater focus, like an exam, an interview, or an important meeting. And it can also help you if you're just feeling blocked, stuck, grieving, overwhelmed. I wouldn't recommend doing it when you're in the middle of overwhelm or when you're in the middle of deep grief, like if you're grieving and you're crying, then let it out. Like all the tears flow, you know, just flow, flow, flow. And then, you know, sometimes tapping here is a really good idea to help you come back into your body. And then once you're a little more calm, then you can do the alternate nostril breathing. But I wouldn't do it when you're in the middle of overwhelm. I would do it once you've let yourself cry. Again, the key is to healing the emotional body and the mental body and the trauma that we've stored in the body over past experiences. The key is when it rises to the surface, let yourself feel it. And can you be fully present with it? Can you let yourself feel the anger, feel the hurt, feel the pain, feel the grief? Let yourself scream, let yourself yell, go into that, you know, whatever you need to do, let it out. Just try it. Like, it's actually kind of fun. It feels freeing, and it helps you come back into your sense of being a human being who has a range of emotions, and it's a normal part of being human. It's no longer time to push everything under the rug, pretend it doesn't exist, you know, just sweep it away. You know, it's that elephant that's in the room. And if it stays there, it's going to stay there until we work through it. And recognizing, you know what, like, we're all in this together. It's all okay. All right. So we'll end with a little bell ting. Go back to this because I just like it. And then I'll just share this for 2 seconds and then we'll go into questions. I pulled this card from the Animal Oracle deck that I have. And basically its message is the koala bear, which I think are really cute and I love. But the koala bear is spirit has a plan. So that's the message. It's an important message, which is basically spirit has a plan for your life. Can you allow whatever that plan is to unfold and just be in the enjoyment of the journey and play and dance and be in the unfolding of that plan, knowing that you don't know what's coming, and allowing, the more you can open, you know, work through that density and then open and allow so that you can receive and shine and be love in the world, be light in the world, be presence in the world. If each of us could just be more present in our lives, we embody that presence, we teach others just through our presence. And that would be enough. And then it can unfold from there. But just love yourself and honor yourself and know that you are perfect exactly as you are. And I love you guys. And so now we have 15 minutes left, and I just want to open it up for any questions, comments, anything that you guys would like to share about our lesson this evening on embodiment in 3 days to breathe again. Okay, I'm going to stop talking if anyone would like to chime in. And if you want to share anything, you just unmute yourself.
Hi, Stacy.
Hi, Stacy.
Thank you so much for all of this. It's very timely for me. I wanted to ask you, I missed what N was in presence. Can you?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I noticed the internet connection was unstable a couple times. So the N is noticing. Notice, it's notice. So the N is noticing any thoughts, opinions, or judgments that are keeping you blocked or stuck from being able to be more fully in your heart, you know, where you're more in your head thinking and having judgments and thoughts rather, and maybe a wall up that's then putting a wall up between your heart and that other person, or being more love in the world.
Cool. Yeah, I see this a lot in my practice. People are very disconnected from their body. And I actually was talking to a teenager today about following his heart and going out of his head. So
Hmm.
to be validated by you.
Thank you. That is very timely. Thank you for sharing, Stacy.
Yep.
And then I noticed Kimberly just put a little post in there, and I noticed you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, I just wanted to share. At some point in the conversation, you were talking about, the talking to yourself and the affirmations, and talking about, can I love myself or judging myself?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really actually huge. And so I just posted this link for our friends here online. If you're interested in exploring judgment and self-judgment in particular, because that's what it all comes back to, is when we judge someone, we are focusing on the rejected parts of ourselves. And so we need to learn to love the one who judges, which is ourselves. So it puts a really amazing spin, and Matt Kahn is an amazing teacher and speaker. He's one of my favorites. So I just wanted to share that with the group. And you were just talking about the judgment on the notice piece.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyways, I just wanted to share that little resource because it's really cool.
Thank you. Would you mind sharing that in the Facebook group?
Oh yeah. Okay, sure. I'll do that.
That would be absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah. I love Matt Kahn, and yes, that sounds great.
And a great talk tonight. Thank you so much for all of your communication and sharing with us tonight.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Kim.
Stacy, can you just read off what the resource is that she posted, because I can't see it?
She's going to put it in the private group, but it's Matt Kahn's video on unraveling judgment.
If click chat, friends in the room, if you just click chat at the bottom of your screen,
yeah,
it should pop up window, and
Got
then
it.
you can see the link.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Kimberly, thank you for sharing that. I am looking in the chat, looking at it, reading that, but not realizing, yes, just tell everyone it's in the chat. But yes, if you could put it in the Facebook group too, that would be great. So thank you so much for sharing that. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share? I think I'll share one other final thing. Again, going back to this card and the message of this card, which is basically Spirit has a plan, and that's, to me, it goes back to, do you see the universe? Marianne Williamson talks about this. Do you see the universe as a safe place or a dangerous place? And if we watch the news, then obviously we can think, it's a very dangerous place. It's a very dangerous world out there. But if we can trust that Spirit has a plan, that we are supported, and we have to really make that decision to trust, then we know that no matter where we go, what we do, as long as we're aware and tuned in, and again, being in your body more really helps your intuition develop more as well. We haven't gone into intuition yet, but it's sort of like that gut instinct. It's that recognizing, okay, maybe I shouldn't go over there, or maybe I shouldn't get in this car or take this plane ride or go on this trip, or maybe I should go this way. Something's telling me to go this way instead of that way. And sometimes it's to keep us safe, and sometimes it's because we're meant to meet a certain person or have a certain experience that if we didn't go down that road, we would have missed it. So the more we come into the body and the heart and the breath, the more still and quiet we can be from the inside, the more present and aware we can be, the more we're tuned into hearing the subtle guidance. That's the difference between the outside loud, noisy world and the soul-led God messages from your angels, guides. God is they're more subtle, they're more quiet, they're more still. And so, the only way to really hear and follow that soul path is to really be more present and still, so that we can listen more. A lot of the students that I work with, I say this a lot, is we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, which means that we should listen twice as much as we speak. And so that's where, stillness speaks, is what Eckhart Tolle says. He's another fabulous teacher if anyone wants another resource. Matt Kahn, Eckhart Tolle, those are 2 fabulous teachers on the journey of healing and coming back into our truth. Stacy and Kim, thank you guys for sharing. If no one else has anything else they'd like to share, I can leave it open for another couple seconds, but otherwise we'll close out the meeting. Oh, Kimberly said, thanks for everything. Good night. Oh, and Julie had to sign off. I didn't see that. All right, so we're going to close down the call tonight. Everyone, thank you so much for being live. Also in the Facebook group, if you watched the live stream or if you watched the replay, feel free to comment any questions, anything that was an aha moment, or any further questions that you have that you'd like to have more conversation or discussion about. Feel free to share that. This is a supportive environment, a safe place. Feel free to be fully human and know that you're supported on the inner journey in this group. So, all right, you guys, thank you so much for being here. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. Sending so much love, and good night.